welcome to the Say Yes to What's Next podcast, where embracing change can ignite a world of possibilities. Hey now, I'm your host, Elise Ancel, and welcome back to this week's episode. Today we're diving into a theme that's as powerful as it is personal: ego versus ego. How do we respond to life's challenges? Do we let ego hold us back, keeping us grounded in fear or pride? Or do we rise like the eagle, embracing our higher potential and soaring above the noise? This episode is all about recognizing when ego gets in the way and learning how to shift our mindset to step into the freedom, growth, and strength we're meant for. It's time to stop settling for just getting by and start saying yes to the better that's waiting for us. Let's explore what it really means to leave ego behind and take flight. You don't want to miss this one. Let's get started. How many of us find ourselves stuck in situations that don't align with who we are or where we want to be? Be honest. How often do we justify it by saying, I'm just making the best out of a bad situation? But here's the truth: we don't have to settle for what's less than ideal. We have the power to choose our response no matter the circumstances. Think about it. Have you ever let your ego get in the way of something better? Maybe it was pride or fear holding you back from saying yes to something greater. Ego loves to keep us grounded, clinging to control, afraid of change. But being an eagle means rising above, embracing the unknown, and trusting that you were made to soar. The question is, are you letting your ego clip your wings? Or are you ready to let go and take flight, stepping into the freedom and possibilities waiting for you? I'm reminded of a time when I let my ego take the wheel, trying to prove a point and refusing to let go. And it left me feeling stuck, weighed down by pride instead of soaring like the eagle I knew I was created to be. In the book, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets by Andy Stanley, it was the integrity question chapter that challenged me to ask myself this two-part question. Am I being honest with myself? Really? This question challenged me because going forward, I wanted to become intentional in making better decisions so that I'd have fewer regrets. It was then that I began reflecting on past events, and it didn't take me long to locate one of those moments in my life that I'm not proud of. I'm sure we all have them, those events that dragged on far too long. And so, if I'm honest with myself, I can see now that my ego was behind so many of those poor choices, driving the narrative and holding me back from being the eagle I was created to be. But I let it happen anyway, even when I knew better. I should have realized years ago that my choice to continue pursuing my personal agenda that was dysfunctional in every way, despite all the red flags and flashing lights, would not end well. And I should have dealt with my bruised ego. Yes, once again, I didn't make a good choice and deal with those consequences. But instead, all these years, for the sake of ego, I have been trying to prove to myself and to those around me that I was right about the decision that I made. Yes, I had to finally be honest and tell my truth. I guess for me, I can't say that I didn't see it for what it was, but because of bad decisions I made in the past, I couldn't deal with yet another decision that has gone south. You see, I looked at another bad choice as my not winning, and I just couldn't emotionally deal with yet another loss. So, in my own strength, I've been trying to change the outcome, change the narrative. But the hard truth is that we can't change things that are out of our control, but we can change how we respond. Just take the loss, Elise, is what I kept saying to myself. But because I'm a winner by nature, I just didn't understand how I couldn't win in this area. Of course, by now I was embarrassed, ashamed, and fearful. So my ego took me on a flight. No, not the kind that eagles take when they soar high above the foolishness or nonsense. No, my ego had me on a trip that would only end if I made the decision to get off. Eventually, I did, but I just wish I'd gotten off sooner. All these years, I've been so hard on myself for just not accepting it for what it was. That way, I could just deal with it and move on. Grieve the loss, certainly, but nevertheless move on anyway. Instead of owning up, I continued to try and save face when my refusal to let go was draining the life out of me. And if you're like me, taking on things that I'm not supposed to or carrying unnecessary weight cause negative impacts in other areas of my life. And it was just a matter of time before the turmoil on the inside spilled outwards and made it harder for me to hide. Relationships close to me suffered. I'd have skin breakouts, headaches, hair loss, weight gain, weight loss. It just all depended on what extra weight or stress I was carrying at the time. And I thought to myself, why would anyone endure any of these symptoms stemming from a bad choice when all you had to do was just let it go? Think about it for a moment. It's those choices we make that in order to fit in, we have to dumb down who we actually are. It could be in a toxic workplace, a situationship, relationship, or adult children that refuse to be accountable and try to hold us hostage to their bad choices. Whatever the case, choose you and let it go. We further try to justify our choices by telling ourselves false truths about the situation. Things like perhaps over time things will get better, evolve into what we envisioned, but no amount of time will change the narrative. So you choose. Will it take you 5 days, months, years? The choice is always yours, but the outcome will still be the same, I'm afraid. You may still be deluding yourself when there are good days, times, memories, but those are just one offs that drag things out because let's face it, we just want what we want. The one thing, though, about an ego, it's just a matter of time when sooner or later they will be in a compromising position that forces the true authenticity of who they are to rise up, soar high above those circumstances that have tried to keep them bound. It's just in you to do. So rise up and fly above anything that has kept you down. I want to still encourage someone that it's never too late to take flight. Take accountability for sure, but move on and do better. Honestly, that's better than being bound any day. So here's to better decisions so we have fewer regrets. Let's talk about what it means to shift from ego mode, where everything feels like a battle for survival, to ego mode, where you rise with grace, vision, and purpose. So how do we recognize when ego is in control and what can we do to choose differently? Perhaps awareness? Notice the signs. Is your inner dialogue defensive or fearful? Or humility? Be willing to admit when ego is leading the way. What about perspective? Look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, is this helping me soar or is it holding me back? And then there's action. Take one step forward, choosing courage over comfort. Every time you choose faith, humility, or growth, you're stepping into your ego self, the version of you that isn't afraid to rise above challenges and embrace the better waiting for you. How are you going to live today? Grounded by ego or soaring like the eagle you were created to be? Let's take a moment to reflect. How often do you find yourself reacting to challenges from a place of ego, protective, defensive, maybe even a little stuck? It's easy to do, especially when life throws curveballs. But what if you could pause and ask yourself, what would the ego in me do? Think about it. The ego doesn't get weighed down by the chaos below. It rises above, scanning the horizon with clarity and grace. It doesn't settle for scraps when it's capable of soaring to greater heights. So, what's one area of your life where ego might be clipping your wings? What small shift could you make to trade defensiveness for vision or fear for faith? The moment you step into that ego mindset, you're choosing freedom, growth, and alignment with your higher purpose. As we wrap up this episode, today we talked about the battle between ego and ego, how ego can keep us grounded in fear, while the ego calls us to rise above with courage and purpose. Here's your challenge this week. The next time you face a decision or a difficult moment, pause and ask yourself, am I responding from ego or am I rising like the eagle I'm meant to be? Reflect on what it means to let go of the things holding you back and step into the freedom of living with purpose. Share your thoughts, breakthroughs, or even the struggles you're working through with someone you trust. This way, we can encourage one another to keep soaring. Until next time, remember, you were created to fly. Don't let anything keep you grounded. See you in the next episode. Thanks for joining me today. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Say Yes to What's Next. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Until the next time.